Hello, and welcome to week 5 of Flourishing in the Garden. So, again, this week focuses on the throat chakra and also space and ether. And our permaculture principles for this week are to use and value renewables. And so, in this space, we want to think about all of the different resources that we have available to us and how, one, we can use them intentionally, and two, value them so that we're replenishing these resources and creating a system that is sustainable and is a full circle. So one example of this is we are preparing the land to plant. We might be adding in different nutrients or compost, different organic material to help support our soil. And then we grow our food, we harvest the food, we eat the food, and then any scraps that come from what we've harvested and eaten, we can then put back into the compost. And then when that composts and breaks down, we can then add it back to the soil. So this is a full system here that we're working to, again, build that sustainability and resilience there. So some other renewables that we might look at would be solar, water, air, or wind. And these different resources, we can work to harness them with different materials, so whether that be solar panels, rain barrels, different catchment or collection systems, but also working with the land and being able to carve the land so that water moves in the way that can help to provide, again, water to different spaces in our field and to kind of guide that. And so a way that this might show up for us in our physical bodies is to, again, notice what's going on. So coming back to that first permaculture principle, and then being able to work with our breath, our nutrition, and our movement. And so these are kind of the three main pillars I think of which is very similar to plants. What a plant needs: sunshine, air, water, nutrients. So again, working with those things to kind of notice how we can create a sustainable, healthy system within us. So again, that might be getting our fruit and vegetable consumption for the day or the week. It might be getting our movement in, because a lot of times, again, I've said this a couple times in these videos, but I hear things like, I don't have energy, or we hear about people being tired and not being able to feel like they have the energy to do things. And sometimes we need to add in that movement or add in nutrition that's going to fuel us to keep going and to build that energy and to create the energy for ourselves. So just another thought there, how we can reflect this permaculture principle to ourselves. And so our second permaculture principle for today is to use and value diversity. And so with that, diversity helps to create a resilient system. So a system that is strong, that can continue to flourish even in the midst of different threats or different problems that we might see come up. So specifically in the garden, we can think about this when we explore monocultures or a space where we plant one crop. And so these spaces, typically we need heavy pesticides, heavy fertilizers, because typically in those systems there might not be crop rotation, that might not be a thought. And those systems of monocrops, monocultures, will typically need a lot of inputs that come from outside of our farm space. And so what we can do when we have polyculture, or we have all different kinds of crops in there, we're not only, again, providing resilience and the ability to have, in one vein, we can have multiple different kinds in a species. So we can have 10 different varieties of tomatoes. And so if one variety you're experiencing a blight, then in the other varieties, they are more resilient, they're stronger, and so they're able to kind of push past the different threats that are coming, whether that be pests or biological things like molds and blight and things like that. So again, working in this polyculture system, we can create a space that can continue to flourish even in the midst of these threats and pests. So that's one example. And another example, to kind of reinforce this, is the common phrase, don't put all your eggs in one basket. So again, with that, we are thinking about how we can really build our diversity throughout our crop system and what that looks like. So again, just in case we have some different pests or threats or things like that in the garden space, we've kind of built in a buffer that we can still fall back on just in case. So we have a plan B, plan C, maybe even plan D there that can help to support our system. So another way we might view this in our system is that oftentimes in a permaculture space, we're going to allow different native plants. And I say native plants, some people might call them weeds, but we will allow certain plants to stay and thrive and flourish and kind of work into our systems. Now, of course, there are some different plants and weeds that we might consider more of a noxious weed that are going to expel different toxins. They might create an environment in the soil that is not healthy for our other plants. They might also be toxic to humans. So we want to take care of those weeds, but there are plenty of others like mullein, and even in some cases coltsfoot can kind of work into the edges and exteriors of our garden space. Purslane is another great edible, lamb's quarters. So these different things, as we might witness them in the garden, we may choose, another great one, dandelion, of course, which is medicine in itself. So these things where people consider them weeds and spend so much time pulling them or spraying them, we can learn to work with them and learn how they work into our garden space. So just another example there. And how this principle relates to our own lives is that as we can use and value diversity in the people around us, in our teams that we're working with, in our friends, in our workspace, that we have the opportunity to really learn from others if we are open to it. So again, that kind of system, diversity of skills, of education, if we are open to it, again, it can really help to build that stability and resilience within our system. So those are our permaculture principles for the week, and I thank you for your time. Namaste.